Hey everybody, so it's noon here in California, and this is the COVID edition of our webinar today. Weird hair day and weird background setting here, but hey, we got the Tenbound logo and we're all good. So just so you know, I am recording this and it will become available post-webinar. So just head over to Tenbound or head over to the YouTube site for Tenbound, and you can watch it after. And if you can hear me okay, just give me a thumbs up in the Q&A or the chat, or raise your hand, whatever it is. If I'm just a head that's talking, okay, we got one, so somebody out there hears me. Thanks for jumping in. Thanks everybody. Thanks for jumping in. So I'm super excited today. This is the first time we've done this, but there has been so many changes in the sales development space. Derek, thank you. Sounds fuzzy to Graham. Is it just me? I don't know. Hopefully it's not. I got a mic on. It looks like it's plugged in, so it's fuzzy for me too. Fuzzy for sure. Okay, let me just go to the audio on the MacBook and see if that helps a little bit. Much better from Graham. Sounds better, Sean. Chris, thank you. Awesome. Okay, let's do that then. This is not going to be used anymore. I try to use it because I've got this big old Janet Jackson thing, and it just gets in the way. So thanks everybody for jumping on. This is going to be really interesting. Top 10 trends in sales development that we're seeing out there. I'm sure that you're seeing these as well, and I really want to make this an open dialogue, open conversation. Not just another talking head for 30 minutes talking about things that I'm seeing and our team is seeing here at Tenbound, but I want to hear from you. So the chat is open, Q&A is open, so just jump in there and I'll try to get to as many as I can. So we're talking top 10 trends in sales development. I want to take a moment to thank the sponsor for the webinar. If you haven't heard of Zozo Day, it's XO Day. They have Zozo Day Compass, which is absolutely amazing, especially with some of the trends we're going to be looking at today. It basically gamifies your incentive programs for your team. So whether it's your SDR team, AE team, or even other parts of the business, it gamifies it. So instead of just throwing up a gift card or throwing out an Uber Eats incentive, you can really beam that right to the team's cell phones and on their desktops and make it a game. So they're trying to get points. They're trying to get more of the activities that you're trying to drive, whether it's phone calls, emails, etc., and really get up to the top of the leaderboard. And as salespeople, we all want to be at the top of the leaderboard, right? So Zozo Day Compass, it's amazing. I'm going to throw a link in the comments. It's just XO Day. I want to thank them for reaching out and trying to get ahead of it because it's just a perfect solution for sales development. So, okay, let's dive in. So we go through, we've got the top 10. They're in the order that we thought we've seen the most of out there. And so if you haven't, we also have a blog post over at Tenbound where we list these out and go deep, but I'll kind of go through these. The first major thing, this is not going to be a surprise to anyone, is we're seeing managing virtual SDR teams. And anybody who's been in the SDR world for a few years, this is head spinning because I worked with a company about 4 or 5 years ago that had a remote SDR team, and we thought it was just an amazing, amazing thing because there's so much learning and so much cross-pollination that happens in the office. How do you put that into a remote setting? And especially if the SDRs are coming in new to the work environment, how do you make it possible for them to go from being in college and studying something that's not necessarily your industry to being productive? And so the number one trend that we're seeing is managing virtual SDR teams and how to do that effectively. And a few things that we're noticing is that there's been a huge uptick, obviously, in searches for finding remote tools like Zozo Day, for example, and finding the tools that are going to help to manage remote teams. Beyond Slack and Zoom, what are going to be the emergent players in this marketplace that can help people to really promote the management of virtual teams? And the other thing, that's interesting is, how are you going to really evolve your management style to, get the most out of remote SDR teams? You got to think about what are ways that you can really push the practice forward when you can't just walk around. We really see that the remote SDR team is going to be the way of the future, because if you think about the base salary of someone here in San Francisco versus other parts of the country or other parts of the world, now with the crisis that we've gone through, we've proven that there can be productivity with a remote SDR team, and they can hit the same metrics that we've seen in the office. So for a lot of business owners, and investors, why would they pay for very expensive real estate when you can have a remote team? So, the trend for the folks on this call who want to either move into management or managing teams, or at the high level, is how are you going to get ahead of this trend? How are you going to morph your management style into being able to really harness this? And then what are some ways that we can push this forward to make it even more productive moving forward as we go into 2021? Because we don't see this trend going anywhere based on the digital transformation that's happened over the last few months. So managing virtual SDR teams, become an expert, and know the tools, know the skills, and really be able to push that in the positive direction is going to help you out a lot. The next huge one that we're seeing, and if anyone's downloaded the Tenbound market map for sales development, you'll notice this: outsourced SDR companies. I mean, this industry is absolutely exploding right now. We can't even keep up with the number of new companies that are coming out to support this. And they have essentially taken the sales development process and created entire companies to support this. So anything from creating lists to cleaning your data, to actually calling customers and setting appointments, and even taking it further into the sales process. These companies are exploding right now. They're everywhere. And the real challenge here with this trend is, how do you go about winnowing down all the companies that are out there to support you to hit those pipeline metrics? And really, as a buyer, where do you start? This is something that we've been trying to focus on over the last few months at Tenbound. We released a couple of research papers and have been helping clients with, sorting this out, but it's still a huge challenge because there's so many of these companies, and they're even, getting more available now during the crisis because of the next trend that we're seeing, which is mass layoffs of SDR teams. And I mean, hopefully nobody was affected, on the call with this trend, but you can't open up LinkedIn or the news without understanding that there's been a lot of reduction in force, and especially on the SDR side. It's a very labor intensive, cost intensive program, and companies are shifting more toward making sure that their installed base is happy and they're growing their current customers. And they're turning away a bit from going out and finding new logos. At least, during this last 6-month shock period, the emphasis has become more on keeping the customers that you have versus going out and finding new ones. And so at the same time that there's been large reductions of force, there's still the concern of not having enough pipeline and not having enough appointments. So at the same time that you're cutting your SDR department, you still need appointments and pipeline. So we're bullish on the sales development program and rehiring coming up in the next couple of years. But in the meantime, companies are trying to figure out, what do we do? Do we have the AEs do more prospecting? Do we bring in one of the outsourced SDR companies? How are we going to fill up that gap? There's for all the SDRs that are out there that were affected by this, hey, your skill set is still very much in demand. Companies are still, very interested in building pipeline and setting appointments for the sales team. They're going out and talking to outsource SDR companies. And so they're always going to need, a new SDR. So keep plugging away and reach out to your network. Anybody on the call, feel free to DM me on LinkedIn, because I hear a lot of opportunities. But these mass layoffs, we think, are a blip, and the industry is going to come back. There are a few things to look at, though, if you're not familiar with, and especially in the software world, is product-led development and product-led marketing, where it's more of the freemium consumer-based model, and people can try out a lot of products before they even talk to a sales rep or an SDR. This is becoming much more popular. There's been some big IPOs lately in the product-led space, and they've really made it possible to at least go to market initially without having an SDR team. But it's interesting because we had the head of sales development at the conference last year from Asana, who was a product-led marketing company. And eventually they turned to building a sales team when they took product-led marketing as far as they could take it. So again, I'm very bullish on the fact that sales development will come back post-pandemic, and would love to hear your thoughts as well. So JC Otero has a opening on his team in Austin. So, if anybody's looking for work in Austin, and I'm assuming that, you have to be local. A lot of the jobs that are coming online are remote. People are even, going back to the first trend, they're hiring SDRs remote from the get-go. So they've never been actually in the office as well. The other, big trend that we're seeing is, obviously, this is something that goes along with the, the amount of SDRs that are out there, the amount of SDR messaging that's going out. You've heard it a lot, but it's hard to kind of understand what it means. A personalization at scale from a messaging perspective. We've just noticed a huge uptick in that. One of the main proponents of personalization at scale, Beck Holland, has started her own firm to really focus on helping SDRs with getting personalization at scale into their workflow. And there's a lot of different, methodologies that are out there. It seems like personalization at scale has sort of morphed into, we don't want to send mass emails with just a templated thing, because we're going to be definitely replaced by robots if that's the case. But what value can we bring to the messages, and how do we send enough messages and still make it personalized to the person that we're reaching out to? And Jeremy Donovan and some of the research that's come out over at SalesLoft and Gong has sort of landed on the first 20 to 30% of your message should be researched, should be personalized. And the rest of it can be a call to action or a value-added resource to the prospect. But definitely, even on the follow-up messages, it seems like the trend that we're seeing is that people are landing on, there's got to be some personalization in order to break through the noise that's out there right now. The other thing that's come up quite a bit is the 3x3 methodology from Steve Richard over at Exec Vision. Sorry, Steve. Which is 3x3 is just taking the message before you put it out, not hitting a mass send on the message, and giving it 3 minutes to gather 3 facts about the prospect that you can put into the first 20 to 30 minutes of the message. So there is some context, there is some relevancy, but you can still harness the power of your sales engagement platform. So we're definitely seeing personalization at scale across the board. And you know, some of the low open rates and the lack of response that a lot of people are getting on their SDR messages is probably because we're not doing enough personalization at scale. So it's definitely something to look at. The other one that we're seeing more from a career perspective is sales development leaders getting more of a seat at the table. And this is really interesting for anybody who is passionate about sales development. They want to look at it as a longer term career. There are paths beyond just getting out of sales development and going into sales or becoming a higher level marketer. We're seeing more and more of the larger companies that were built on software as a service, especially bring in a position that's the VP of sales development. Zoom Info. There's an active campaign opening right now. I'm not sure if Maria Pergolino has filled that, but I talked about that with their head of sales a while ago. VP of sales development is coming up. It's an emerging practice. It's a respected practice, and more companies are realizing how important it is, again, and how hard it is to consecutively build appointments, pipeline, and revenue, especially for software as a service companies. And they realize that, hey, this is a senior level position that needs to be addressed at the highest level. And more VP of sales development positions are opening up at the larger companies. We see that trend continuing and becoming a more important position. So, you know, again, if you're up and coming and you're doing great, you don't have to necessarily get out of sales development right now. There is a path to a higher level. And our theory is that, you know, career-wise, a real sales development professional could definitely morph into the chief revenue officer if they had some experience beyond sales development, doing sales and even doing customer success for a while, to really understand the entire customer life cycle. And one of the things that you know, sales development leadership really forges is being able to align people from different departments. And so, you know, as you're looking at this and understanding how this could be relevant, think about, you know, getting some experience in these different areas, and then, you know, building up to even a VP level of sales development and looking at potentially CRO as the end game for, you know, really taking this to the maximum. So it's just an exciting time. It's been very tough with the economy, but as I said, we're very optimistic about the industry itself. Just want to give another quick shout for everybody who joined us to Zozo Day Compass for supporting us on the webinar. If you haven't checked out Zozo Day Compass, great way to incentivize the team. So speaking of incentives, this has been really exciting. We have seen an actual explosion in SDR boot camps. SDR boot camps, if you have not heard of this, are an amazing resource, especially right now. You've got, you know, thousands of college students who are getting out of college with, I would say, dubious degrees, at least, you know, 20 years ago, mine was. And they're looking for something to do. Now it's even worse because you've got massive student debt and the economy is in shambles. So, you know, I've got this degree that's, you know, from a good school, massive student debt, and the economy's in shambles. But there's one bright, shining, hope in the whole thing, which is the tech industry. Software is eating the world, and the tech industry needs the skills that we develop in sales development. So you see more and more SDR boot camps coming down the line. And, you know, this is an amazing resource, not only for the people that need the skills that are taught in SDR boot camps in order to enter into the workforce, but also for the managers and executives who desperately need people who really want to do the job and they know what the job is before they actually start. And that's really important because we all know how hard it is. And there's nothing worse than hiring somebody or getting into the position and sitting there for 6 months and going, this sucks. I don't want to do this. And then next thing you know, you got to find somebody else. So the way that SDR boot camps work is in a few different ways. They'll offer, a boot camp where they teach you about how to become an SDR. And then they'll actually work with companies to find them, positions. And even, some iterations of the concept, they'll be generating pipeline and appointments for the company. And then if you like the person that's working on your case, you can go ahead and hire them. So they're not only a boot camp, but they're also sort of a de facto recruiter. And so there's a number of these companies that are popping up. If you're a mid-career professional, if you're a veteran, if you're a field salesperson who can't go in the field anymore because of COVID, you may want to look at these companies and potentially join, because the tech industry right now, it's probably going to be up $1 trillion over the next 20 years or less than that. And there's just a tremendous amount of opportunities. And then on the flip side, I would say if you're a manager or a director and you're looking for top talent and you're looking for pre-screened people, look at some of these boot camps, because it's a lot better than just trying to find somebody cold and hoping for the best. So the next trend, and this is huge, and if you haven't seen this, every time you open up LinkedIn, you see communities. Communities are popping up. We got a community for sales. We got a community for marketing. We got a community for SDRs. We've got a community for, only the top revenue leaders are allowed in. And there's one that actually says that founders and consultants are not allowed to join. So being both of those, I'll find a different community. But they're great. I mean, if you think about it, we can't go down to, I used to go into the San Francisco a couple of times a week, just to meet people, because I work from home, and, just to meet people, connect, learn about what people are doing. We would organize meetups through Tenbound, and obviously we did the sales development conference. I mean, there's nothing better than being able to meet people and exchange ideas and understand, what's working and what's not out there, and get support. And now, the convergence of COVID and just the fact that we're more digitally, inclined at this point has made more and more of these communities spring up. Some of them are free to join and some are paid, but if you haven't checked out some of these, just do a quick search on LinkedIn and some other Twitter and Google and some other resources, and find one that works best for you, because there's nothing better than being able to get some support there. Or start one of your own. If there's not one that fits, or they won't let you in because of your position, start one of your own. I actually did a webinar with Jason Bay a couple weeks ago from Blissful Prospecting about how do you start your own community. If nobody lets you in, or you're out in the out in the snow looking in the window, just start doing your own things, and get other people to join. The other couple of trends that we're seeing, and this goes along with the same thing, is gurus or coaches, like SDR gurus and SDR coaches that are on LinkedIn and on Twitter, and just completely crushing their social brand and offering, tips, advice, and then, funneling that into their own coaching program. Some of them even have Patreon accounts that you can join, like private accounts where you can get access to these people and just get like a one-on-one, coach, and work with them directly. So if you're not getting what you need, from your boss, or there's no training at your company, there's a whole group of people out there who would love to work with you, and they're available, you know, to join their group and get some coaching directly. You know, beyond just YouTube, you know, you go on YouTube and you can probably get a great education in cold calling and how to run an SDR team and all the stuff that we're talking about. But if you really want to kind of combine that with a one-on-one, you know, coaching plus probably a community of people, then the SDR coaches and gurus are just everywhere right now. So take advantage of that. Last couple of quick things. You know, what we're seeing across the board is the push for alignment. And I mentioned earlier the real CRO position, the Chief Revenue Officer, looks at alignment across the revenue cycle and across the buyer journey, and really tries to forge that relationship. And there's, you know, sales development professionals are right at the forefront of this. And what we're seeing more and more is the advent of revenue operations, and, you know, working not just sales operations or marketing operations, but looking at the whole customer life cycle and trying to align all the data and processes and back end to support, you know, what you're doing in sales development. And so, you know, if you're not close or you don't have any operations support, then that's something that either you could look into as a you know, a skill that you can develop, because it's going to become more and more important. And then from just a political perspective at the company, if you're good at working with people and aligning people and getting people on the same page and project management, then that skill will become more and more valuable as we move forward, because alignment and revenue operations are, you know, becoming more important to companies. And if we can bring that to the table, then we become more valuable as we move forward. And finally, you know, what we've seen more and more, this popped up a few years ago and then it went away for some reason, but the emphasis on data prioritization and bringing unstructured data into a format that can actually be used by the SDR team. And one company, obviously, that's trying to do this, and they just had a mega IPO, was Zoom Info. And more, you're going to see entrants into the data space like Lead IQ and some of the other companies that are trying to not only work on the problem of clean account data, clean prioritization, or clean persona data, but also how do you organize this in a way that's actually structurally sound for the SDR team, so they're not just spinning their wheels and trying to figure out who to call next. That I think is the holy grail for, you know, vendors and people that are trying to work on the problem. There's probably a bunch of companies out there that I didn't mention that are working on this, but more and more people are understanding data is a real commodity right now. And there's plenty of data out there, but it's structuring the data in a way that's prioritized and useful for the team that's going to remain a huge challenge. And we see it in the next five years or so. If not some of the established players, then some new players are going to come in that are able to solve this issue and get it into the hands of more SDR leaders and revenue leaders. So you're going to see a lot of work on data prioritization. It's just the lifeblood of what we do and the lifeblood of sales development. So it's going to become more and more important. So those are the top 10 that we're seeing out there. And you know, if you're seeing some different trends or you've got questions, etc., now's the time. We've got a few questions coming in. Yeah, so that's a really good question. So somebody asked about the quality of the SDR boot camps themselves. Like, how do you know, whether it's worth your time, either if you're one of the people that are going into the boot camp, or if you're one of the companies that's hiring from those people. And so, my 2 cents is, number one, you want to talk to some of the graduates that have gone through the program and see, how much support there was, how well they were trained, how confident they felt about going into the companies. And then on the flip side, if you could talk to a few of the companies that have used those, and just see what the experience has been like. I'm sure that there's varying degrees of success, like with any companies. There's definitely some that have broken out a little bit, and there's some that have faded away since it kind of popped up. But just trend wise, there's more and more companies that are doing this, and so they must see that directionally it's a bridge between two big needs. And so there must be some success happening with this, because there's more and more companies doing it. And okay, so let me get to this one. I'm done. Okay, cool. Yeah. So somebody mentioned that you can actually, if you're interested in the whole data prioritization and you're leaning more toward, getting the operation set up and surfing that whole alignment trend, there's different certifications that you can get. So if your company already has, JC mentioned ZoomInfo, whatever your company already has, if you dig in there and you're really interested in leveraging the tool to the hilt, they usually have certifications that you can do. And so this might be something that you have to do, it's not your day job, but you kind of do, on the weekends and stuff like that. But you could become, if you've got like a tech stack at your company, you could become an expert in all the operational parts of it just by doing the training that they have in their certification, or again, YouTube University. I mean, they probably have everything there. You could become an expert in that. So I would definitely get on that if I were you. Derek wanted me to repeat 8 and 9. And Derek, there's a blog post of this over on Tenbound as well. I think it's a couple days ago. But let's see. So, 8 and 9 were the boot camps. Boot camps and online communities. And then after that, I mean, it kind of goes into it. So you got the boot camps, which we were just talking about, the online communities, and then the gurus and the coaches that are available. So it's like, if you're just out there all alone, there's no reason to be all alone trying to figure out what to do, because you could join one of the free communities, ask a bunch of questions, and get support there. Some have more engagement than others. You just got to see which one works the best. And then if you really want to take it to the hilt, I mean, there's a coaches out there that their Patreon is like $10 a month. And, you're going to get access to some SDR manager who's just a total rock star. So that's great opportunity right there. And Chris Hardiman, Zozo Day. Yeah, dude, Zozo Day Compass is sick. I mean, it's and that's a good thing. I'm old school. So Zozo Day Compass, lines up all of your incentives. So, and it makes it fun for SDRs instead of just throwing out a gift card. So Zozo Day Compass, Roger that from Derek Williams. I'm not sure which one you were talking about, but oh, cool. So you got that. It's really, I mean, again, it's sucked lately with all the layoffs and everything, but for every challenge, there's a ton of opportunity. And I'm obviously, Tenbound focuses 100% on sales development. So we're very bullish on the industry and where it's all going. And, it's going to come back stronger. I mean, we're strongest in the tech industry, and they're going to need SDRs. They're either going to need SDRs in-house to set appointments because nobody else wants to do it, or they're going to need an outsourced SDR company where if you really wanted to be an SDR, you go work at one of those. There's a gazillion of them. And somebody asked, any particular SDR boot camps that actually set meetings for you before you choose? Yeah, I think a few of them. I know that, you know, I try to remain vendor neutral as much as I can, but I know that there's one called Memory Blue, where they essentially act as an outsourced SDR company, a SDR boot camp, and a recruiter. You know, they have all three. So they're pumping out meetings, and then if you want to hire the person, you can. But you know, you've got Vendition and Always Hired and SV Academy. I mean, there's so many, and so you just got to talk to a few of them. And you know, we have a directory on Tenbound, Tenbound/directory. A lot of them are in there, and we're going to be adding a lot of capabilities there where you can start to shortlist some of these companies and leave a review and make lists and stuff like that to really be able to hone it in for sales development. So bookmark tenbound.com directory and just stay in there. So thanks. Good question. So this has been great. You know, again, like I said, I'm really excited about some of the trends that we're seeing. I think it's all on the up and up. If you're in this industry, we're going to keep crushing it. We are going to do the conference again at some point. We did the virtual conferences, which were great, but we want to get back to live conferences as soon as we can in 2021. And I want to meet everybody that's on the call because that was the highlight of the year. Actually, the first one that we did was 3 years ago yesterday. And, you know, all the videos and stuff are up on YouTube and on Tenbound if you want to revisit that, but hoping that we can get back together and meet everybody and just geek out on this because I love sales development. I love talking about it. It's all I talk about. And I love, you know, being able to help you guys out with this. So unless there's any questions, this will be available as a recording. And thanks everyone for the participation, and we'll see you on the next webinar.